couple with a brick, brew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR. We are live from Studio A. The A stands for another week?
I hope not.
And that is the question of the day. Another week of quarterback competition. We will talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, msudenver.edu/online. MSU Denver is the single best place to get an education if you're looking to do it while keeping a full-time job. Their students work twice as many hours as students attending any other Colorado institution, and they set it up for you so you can make your own schedule, you can do all of your online classes, and you can keep that full-time job. So check them out, msudenver.edu/online.
My boys, what is up? Look at this. The three of us. Just the three of us.
Yeah, that's not it. But it has been a while.
Yeah, it has been. The band is back.
The band is back together. And I just, as I've been digesting this game more and more and more,
Coming out good or bad?
I just can't get over the fact that the Broncos have beaten their opponents. What is it? 56 to
63 to 9.
63 to 9 over 2 games, and the toxicity has never been higher.
Yes, but isn't 63 to 9 what you should do against one team that plays nothing but backups and another that played a backup offense and half a backup defense?
I don't know. If you would have told me before the preseason, the Broncos are going to beat. This is exactly what's going to happen. The Broncos are going to beat those opponents 63 to 9. I would be like, thank God.
The score is going to be 31.5 to 4.5.
Yeah, I'll take that absolutely.
Right. Yep.
Still haven't allowed a touchdown, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, is it what you're supposed to do when you're a good team? Yes.
Yep.
If you're a bad team, I don't even know if you can do that. So it does. All I'm saying though is that the Broncos look great so far based on all the information that we have, and yet somehow the discourse is trending down, or it's getting worse.
It was so good. The vibes were great after that first preseason game. When Teddy balled, Drew balled, everyone was happy.
It turns out it's really just comes down to how is Drew Lock playing?
Yep,
exactly. The fan base knows as Drew Lock goes.
Literally, it was a comparable result, right? You blew out an opponent. Your defense played great. Your starting quarterback played very well.
Yes.
And yet you couldn't have had a more different reaction from a lot of people in the public sphere to that. Frankly, it was disheartening.
It was, and it leads us into our conversation here, because there is part of me that's saying I can't handle another week of this. Just let's move on. But the truth is, it's never ending. This will never end. Mm-hmm. We're stuck with this all season, because unless whoever is the starter right now, it sure looks like Teddy Bridgewater is the favorite. Unless they go out there and they tear it up. And I really mean tear it up, because even if they win Monday or on opening night 17-16, that's not going to be enough for people.
You don't think wins are going to shut people up?
I think that close wins will not.
Those
close, non-exciting wins will not excite people.
Those first 3 games have to have some style points involved.
Come on, guys.
People to especially if it's Teddy.
Yeah,
because
only if it's Teddy.
if it's Teddy Bridgewater, then they need to be winning those first 3 games convincingly. Otherwise, there's going to be a segment of the fan base that says, "Well, look what Drew Lock could have done if he was out there to make those throws."
You guys are crazy,
though. It's not us. We're just telling you what's going to happen.
Vic is searching for his first September win. Fans should be happy if you get not 1, not 2, but 3 of those.
This is the fan base that booed Peyton Manning.
Well,
don't forget that.
This is I hope it's a very different fan base now.
I think it is, but the point stands, which is this really weird, almost purgatory that the Broncos are stuck in right now, and the fans have been jaded by the conversations that we've had to have for the last 6 weeks of every season for the last 4 years, which is, should they just tank? And so now people are saying 9-8 isn't good. 6-11 is better. And from a general manager standpoint, I actually agree. But everyone knows that when they kick the ball off on Sunday, you want the Broncos to win. So yes, it will quiet, but there's still going to be a really loud group of people saying, you could have won these games with Drew, and he'd be improving, and Teddy's just the same guy still. So to dial this back to the main point of the conversation, the question is, we don't have a choice. We might just have to deal with this for another week. But is that the right thing for the Denver Broncos? Should they get together today, or maybe they did this yesterday, and, hypothetically, George Payton saying, hey, look, you got to give Drew another week. He looks really good so far. He looked amazing with the ones. And, Drew and maybe Vic saying, like, this team needs a starting quarterback. We got to move forward. So what's the right answer, Zach? Should this thing go on another week?
For the Denver Broncos?
Yes.
Yes, it should. It should go on one more week just to get a little more sample size. But after digesting this in your terms, Ryan, the only thing that makes me come off of that a little bit is, what are we truly going to be able to find out against the Rams on Saturday in this final preseason game? They're a team that doesn't start anyone, let alone in the third preseason game. So I'm wondering, is this sample size even going to be worth it? So now, in terms of the Broncos for this year, the best thing is to make the decision now.
Really quick, though. It's not all, like, the competition going on isn't all just about the game. You can do a lot of one-on-one scrimmage work in practice to get more information.
You can, but this is the week where you mimic game prep. Because you're going to make the cuts, and then everyone's going to scatter for a few days. It's not like they're using that preseason week off to get, like, 4 practices in. That's being used as kind of a quasi-bye. So this is always the week where you're mimicking the regular season. It's you're in terms of what you're doing in practice.
Okay, so let me counter that, though. The Broncos have another week to do that. They could do that next week because that's typically the fourth preseason.
But they're telling teams to scatter and basically treat it like a bye.
Oh,
so,
well, I mean, but here's the thing:
that's a weird thing to do right before the season starts.
Here's the thing, Ryan. The way practices have been going, last week was the most dull practice, and it was boring. And now we're not talking about that as much because look at the way the team came out and played in week 1. Look at the way the team came out and played in week 2, guys. That's what you want to see. So until the team comes out and plays flat, I'm not going to make a big deal of the practices because maybe Vic's saying that's what this team needs, kind of an easier week. And so that's why I just don't see them doing a 180 at all. It's hard for me to even entertain that idea.
Yeah, the more we talk about this, because I came here, I sat in this chair being like, I'm going to say they should push it. That almost seems more silly. The whole thing's been kind of silly. But if you're not going to get that work in practice, where you're doing like really true 11 on 11, first team on first team, series by series breakdowns, and you're just going to send them out there against the Rams third teamers and give them each a series and say, like, whoever does better wins?
Against a bunch of guys that are fighting for their football
lives.
It
doesn't
there's
make
the
sense.
injury risk as well. I mean,
extra injury risk.
If it's up to me, I'm not running anyone that I plan on using extensively on Saturday night.
So then
I'm treating Saturday like the fourth preseason game used to be treated.
So Ryan doesn't like the way this sounds right now. And Mase, you must really not like that Von Miller and Cortland Sutton are supposed to play this Saturday.
That makes me exceptionally nervous.
Yeah.
And maybe the Broncos will back away from that, but the message that we've been getting so far is that those two guys are playing this week.
Maybe do like a simulated they do like simulated games in baseball. And I remember when DeMarcus Ware was working his way back in 2015, he'd do kind of simulated series of reps pre-game with Fred Pagich, the outside backers coach at the time. Do that with Vaughn and Cortland. Say, all right, we're going to give you about the equivalent of 15 reps, but you're going to go against a coach, or you're going to go against Mac McCain in pregame. Run the routes, have somebody throw him the ball, but take the risk of something bad potentially happening, the variable of live football against guys that are fighting for their careers. Take that out of the mix.
I agree. I mean, I've been saying for years, if I'm a head coach, none of my star players ever play a preseason game.
Sean McVay is right. I agree with you.
Well, and then Mase, I'm not even going to do that then.
Yeah.
And I see what you're suggesting. I'm just going to say Von Miller and Cortland Sutton.
Bubble wrap until
I don't think they
Sunday.
really need a preseason game to do this. I mean, you guys think Matthew Stafford is on a new team, new system, and he plays the most important position in sports, and Sean McVay says no.
But you know what we're going to do if Cortland Sutton has 112 receiving yards through 4 weeks of the season?
You're going to blame it that he didn't play a
We're just going to
series
say, well, he's working his way back from
Right.
injury, and then the counterpoint to that is, well, he could have been working, he could have gotten 2 of those rusty weeks out of the way in the preseason.
We've also seen the work that he's gotten in practice, though, and he's been at full speed. Although it hasn't always been ideal. So I am
full speed.
I am already prepared for Cortland Sutton's first few games to be less than what we expect from Cortland Sutton, and that's okay.
And just wait until it's Teddy Bridgewater making Cortland Sutton look average or below average. What people are going to say.
But what's
Now,
Jerry Jeudy doing, though, at the same time?
Yeah. And for the rest, I don't think it's not going to be on Teddy Bridgewater making him look like that. But just to your point about how this fan base is going to stay toxic for a while, that'll play into it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, all right, I guess we're in agreement. There's really no point in extending this competition. And here's where the difficulty of naming a starter really comes in for me, because the question is not necessarily who gives you the best chance to win against the Giants, and it's not even about the future. And when I say that, I mean beyond this season. The real question that you have to ask yourself, I think, if you're the Broncos, is can Drew Lock be better by week 8 than Teddy Bridgewater will be by week 8? And again, this is all narratives and stuff, but the narrative is Teddy's pretty much going to stay the same. And he might actually, produce better numbers with a better supporting cast. But you're not thinking he's going to have like a big breakthrough in his development at this point in his career.
We've kind of seen something similar to this. This sounds like how Mike Shanahan settled on playing Jay Cutler late in the 2006 season.
Right.
Because his thought, with 5 games to go in the season, even though the team was at 7-4, it had lost 2 straight games in a 5-day span. And his thought was that based on the way Jake Plummer was trending, they were unlikely to have any kind of success in the playoffs if he were the quarterback. But if he got Cutler out there then, got some games under his belt, then if they were a playoff team, he thought they would have a chance.
And
so there's actually some rationale for
was
making that
wrong.
call.
He was wrong.
Yes.
Well, we don't know what would have happened in the other scenario. Maybe
Right.
the same thing happens.
Right.
But it didn't work.
Didn't work out.
It didn't work. But to me, that is the main question. It could even be by week 4. Is Drew Lock better by week 4 than Teddy Bridgewater is right now? Because, again, he's trending up. He's doing all the things that you've been asking him to do. And, even I think Drew Lock haters would have to acknowledge he looks better in this preseason than he did last preseason. He looks better in this preseason than he looked in week 17 to me. So the question is, how fast is he trending up? Where do you have Teddy Bridgewater, and when do you think he can cross him? Or is it just not even about that to Vic Fangio? He's saying, I don't care about week 4. I care about week 1. I want the guy who gives me the best chance now. Problem is, this, like I said on Saturday, this is a franchise-altering decision.
yeah, well, and Ryan, my question to Mase would be, what year was Jay Cutler in?
Rookie.
He was a rookie, and I think that's a big difference here.
Yeah.
Is if Drew Lock was showing, if this was his second year even, but third year, how many more years are you going to give him of improvement? So I think the Broncos are taking this into consideration. I think that's why the Broncos gave him a chance this year to fight for the job, was to say, not only is he the best option for this year, but can he continue to grow? And what we saw was a game that could not be beat, but in what Drew did in the first preseason game. Then he wasn't trending up after this game, this second preseason game. I was not impressed with either quarterback in this past week of practice. And really both of them in practices have kind of been flat for the past 2 weeks or so. So I think the coaches may say, in terms of an argument for Teddy, is I think Drew's flattened, and these 2 preseason games are kind of, what we think of Drew is going to be this year is, of course, he has the flashes, but then you're going to see a lot of mem moments too.
Yeah, I think if the Broncos had a young offensive coach, Drew Lock would get this competition. It would be a tie or close to a tie, goes to the young guy who has the higher ceiling for offensive potential. And I just think that this coaching staff is not thinking that way. And when you hear about Vic Fangio talking about like pocket presence and that sort of thing, he's thinking about like, oh, okay, so we're going to have a couple drives a game where it might not even end in a touchdown, but we get 3 first downs instead of 1 on the drive because Teddy was able to stick in the pocket and, just deliver a nice little drag route over the middle that, moved the chains. And I think that's when he goes to sleep at night. That's what he's thinking about.
Well,
he's like, I think Teddy can keep the offense on the field longer, more consistently. And in the end, that's what matters to him because he thinks 18 points is going to win every game.
It's like baseball. What would you rather have? Would you rather have the guy who's going to hit home runs but is going to strike out a lot? Or would you rather have the high on-base percentage guy?
Well, in 2021, they probably go for the home runs guy.
They probably would, but given what else you have on this team, they may say, give me the guy who's got the OBP. Give me the guy who's getting on base and keeping the line moving. And Bridgewater's drives that we have seen so far, they are very much keep the line moving drives.
Exactly.
So, like bleeding 9:47 of clock time on that second drive on Saturday night.
That's like a Vic Fangio wet dream.
Yes, I mean, it did take 2 4th and 1s to do it, but I would also argue this: if this team is better in short yardage than it was last year, and Vic pointed this out after the game, they're probably going to go for it on 4th and short a lot more often.
Please.
If they're a better short yardage offense. They were one of the 5 worst short yardage offenses on 3rd and short last year. You can't blame them, Vic and Pat Shermer, for being skeptical about going for it when they were so dadgum bad at getting 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3. If this team is better, they will go for it more often.
And guys, I think this isn't fair, but I think this is something that may be happening as well. They may be taking the best play away from both of these guys, the worst play away from both of these guys. The worst plays aren't really there, a sack for Drew, for Teddy, an incompletion, but the best plays would be I don't know if you want to count one of the short touchdowns that Teddy had, or if it would be a 29-yard pass, something like that.
The
Salbert throw was exceptional.
So you take that away, and then you take away Drew's throw, and that would hurt Drew more than it would hurt Teddy doing this.
Do.
And I'm not saying you should do that at all, but then they're saying, okay, well, look, now what are we looking at? And it makes Drew look not as bad. And also, what's crazy is when I was thinking about this, I think they may value Teddy's long, sustained drives more than the Drew 80-yard touchdown.
Definitely.
Because I think defense off the field.
Yeah.
And run clock out.
Yeah.
And also, they could say that's more of an oddball thing of happening, whereas a 9-play drive, that doesn't just happen by chance.
Right. And Vic is saying, hey, if we go out there and, it's a long defensive drive and they go for it on 4th and 1 from the 31-yard line and we stop them, and then you go out there and you throw an 80-yard touchdown on the next play, well, my guys are tired. Now they're right back out there. Now, again, that's on the offensive coordinator to call it the right way. Right. But this is all about perspective. And it's why from the beginning we've said...
Attacking you.
I know. It's why from the beginning we've said if Vic Fangio has full control of this decision, it's probably going to end up being Teddy Bridgewater. I know the fans, and I tweeted this out yesterday. I said, it's really easy to talk about the future before the season starts.
Yeah.
When the season starts, everyone just wants the team to win, and the coach is never thinking about the future in that way, especially a coach that's in year 3 and has to win. Now, it's if you got like a Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch scenario when they came in, they both got 6-year contracts. Of course you can think about the future, but especially in this situation, in almost all situations with coaches, they're thinking about week 1.
And you know what? If they win, there's something that we're not going to hear complained about, that it's boring.
Oh yeah.
If they're winning.
Well, I mean, did you catch 2015 at all?
Yeah. Well, But
different expectations.
Different expectations because she had 4 division titles before then.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You're coming off of 5 years missing the playoffs, and if this team starts 3-0, if they get one of those games from Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and they're 4-1, and then they're 5-1 if they beat the Raiders, and if they're sitting there and they're 7-4 and they're 9-5, nobody is going to be complaining about if it's boring. We're going to be talking about how probably this defense and a ball control offense is the type of equation that can go on the road in January and shock people. That's what we will be saying.
Do you know, like, I welcome that type of conversation so deeply in my soul.
Yes.
Because it's like I can't do the tank conversation again.
By October, we're talking about tanking.
The absolute worst. So,
I think
I was just going to say, I've been pro-Drew throughout this competition, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-Teddy. I think there's a lot that Teddy brings to the table. I think that, again, he's kind of exactly what they've wanted, what Vic Fangio wants. Now, I totally also understand the fans who are saying, we've been hearing that for 5 years. Give us a quarterback who doesn't turn it over, and the defense will win.
But they were going for the wrong type of guys.
Well, and again,
Case Keenum wasn't that guy. Joe Flacco wasn't that guy.
It's point, counterpoint, counterpoint. That's just the world we live in right now.
And what people would counter Mase saying is saying Teddy threw 12 picks last year.
Right. It's just there's an
And
answer for everything.
And he was a 9-2 with Sean Payton. So.
Exactly. We can
Yeah.
do this all day.
But this is what drives people crazy.
That's what's driving me crazy. So I'm kind of taking the opposite side of this. Shout out to Colby Cheese 27 for the super chat.
Colby cheese. We could buy some Colby cheese with that.
We could. Probably not like Tillamook, but something a little lower.
Thank you.
I'm taking the side of like, I am on both sides here. I like both quarterbacks. I like both dudes. I think that both guys, I can see a path. Now, again, it's easier for me because I'm not my job is not on the line that I know of, based on who the starting quarterback is.
Let's see how well this podcast is.
Let's see. It's easier for me to say let's go for the future move. But like if I ask all the people in the chat, who I assume there's people in the chat who are saying like Drew.
I'm sure there are.
And they're saying like, I don't want the coach to be doing what's best for him. I want the coach that does what's best for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Would you do that for your job, whatever your job is, especially if you like your job?
You have to be told that there's a commitment to do something that you don't agree with, but
Yes.
that they're going to have your back. We've heard no such thing that exists, and we don't think it exists.
And this is why maybe if you were thinking long term, it might not have been best to have a coach coaching for his job with a GM on a 6-year contract. You go to San Francisco, for example, and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch coming at the same time. In Buffalo, a great example, you had Brian Daboll, or not, he's the OC, sorry. You had Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane coming in, both in 2017, and they were on the same page as for what they wanted to do. The first year, the funny thing is they played Tyrod Taylor because they only had Nathan Peterman there behind him. But then once they had that 9-7 season, they had long-term viability, and they were able to say, yeah, we're not going to double down on a mediocre quarterback who got us to 9-7. We're going to go all in with Josh Allen.
It doesn't make any sense.
But when you have the coach and GM tied together like that, you're able to make a broader decision because you're in it together, and you're probably going to go down together, whereas you have the coaching staff whose vision may not align with upstairs long term.
This might be one of the more damning things I could say, but it's really how I feel. To me, there are 4 people who have to be on the same page to create a dynasty or a great team for sustained success. Owner, GM, coach, quarterback. The Broncos are 0 of 4 right now in terms of synergy between all of them. You know what I mean? They don't have an owner. The GM's brand new. The coach is on a completely different path, and they don't have their quarterback.
And 75% of them may be different 12 months from now.
100% of them could be different.
Maybe if the owner is like a Moneybags and says, I want my own GM.
I would hope the next owner is Moneybags.
Yes. So it's a really awkward scenario, and it's why you get these weird kind of waves between where people are, where people in the organization are feeling what they're doing. It's just off.
I mean, John Elway and John Fox came in together. in 2011.
Yep.
And so
There's no doubt that's just the best thing.
even
Yes.
though it devolved, their vision and timeline were aligned.
Yep. And so, guys, my question to round this out is we both think it's the best thing to do right now is to name a starting quarterback. Is there a chance it's Drew? Are we overlooking Drew?
I think there's a chance.
Okay.
Yes, I think that there's a chance that we're all kind of reading this a little bit wrong, and George Payton might just be saying, like, hey, I'm the boss. Go with the young guy. I like what I'm seeing from him. I think there's something there. Or George Payton might be truly honest and saying, hey, you can't micromanage a football coach.
Right.
So, Vic, your job's on the line. He's not saying that directly to his face, but he's saying, all right, do it the way you want. Let's see if it works out.
Yeah, and I don't really think there's a chance. If they're going to name a starter this week, you can't do it after what just happened on Saturday. You can't. Now, if Drew came out and was good, really good, you could have done that, but you just can't. You can't now. And I think you would lose some of the locker room if you did that. And then it would also be like, why are we doing this competition?
Last thing I want to talk about here. And then we'll get to a couple super chats. What more could Drew Lock have done? Like, what would you have wanted to see from him, at least in the games, that you say, hey, that's what could have won you the job?
Nothing in the first game. He was as good as
Throw
he could
to
be.
Judy, like, could that have swung this? That's 3 touchdowns for Drew, 2 for Teddy. If he just gets that throw for Judy from here to here,
Quite possibly, because when Teddy had his 4th and 5 on Saturday, he got the first down and much, much more.
Yep.
So that's one
Great
thing.
protection on the play, by the way.
Yeah. It's funny how protection helps both
Sure
quarterbacks. Huh?
does.
Yes. The other thing I think with Drew Lock, the one thing that could have helped just a little bit is, and again, it's kind of beyond his control, but that first series that he had where he's under pressure and takes a couple of sacks, is that on him? No, because you can point to the things breaking down, but it's on that series where I think if he could have found a way to wiggle out and make a play like he did to Seth Williams in the third quarter against the guy,
was sick, by the way.
it was a great play, great improv
it
job by
was.
Drew Lock. But if he has a moment like that on that series, I think we may be talking about Drew Lock being the guy that would be announced today.
And that, to me, feels silly. It just if it's
clo-
that
yeah.
close.
It should be Drew if it's close. If you think it's close, it should be Drew. And look,
Now-
they both were not very good in Minnesota in those joint practices, which I think is another thing that kind of lingers over this. But although both of them had one pick in team period reps, Teddy did have a touchdown against the ones, although it would have been a sack potentially in game conditions, and Drew didn't have that. And Teddy was also more accurate in terms of completion percentage against the Minnesota ones in those 2 days than Drew was.
You know what I think? I actually think that it's not as close as it is to our eyes. And what I think really comes down to, and I don't know if they'll tell us this, again, if Teddy ends up being the starting quarterback, is they grade every play on a very different scale than we do, because they know what's supposed to happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We look good play, bad play. They're saying good read, bad read.
Good
right
pre-snap.
pre-snap adjustments, wrong
Yeah.
pre-snap adjustments.
What if one of those sacks on that first series for Drew on Saturday was on him failing to identify something pre-snap? They know that. That's a difference-making thing.
And I think that's what it comes down to. Is it didn't come down to one throw that one way or the other. It shouldn't come down to that. It comes down to they're going to say over the course of training camp, we felt like Teddy made the right decision more times. He read the field a little bit better, and
Commanded the offense.
he commanded the offense.
Yep. And Ryan, I agree with you that I don't think it's one throw. That's the difference. And I think the big illuminating thing is something we talked about on the post-game pod, and that is points per possession. Teddy just blew this out of the water. It would have been impossible, nearly impossible for any quarterback to keep up with that. The 6 points per possession. And one thing we talked about was how Drew was at 2.875. Now, almost less than half of Teddy. But let's say instead of that turnover on downs, they kick a field goal. We'll give Drew that benefit of the doubt. Give him 26 total points. That's still 3.25. That's almost half.
Then you can take 3 away from Teddy and say they kicked the field goal on that 4th and 5.
Or 4.
What's that?
Take
Take 4 away. And even you can do
Even
all the mental
5
gymnastics
points per possession.
You can do all the mental gymnastics you want. It gets it closer.
It gets it closer, and that's why I think it is actually going to be pretty obvious to them because of all of these back things. And with what we think about Vic, it's going to be very obvious. And that's why I think a decision is in the next 24 hours.
Right. And like in the end, Vic Fangio is human. He didn't like what Drew Lock was doing last year. And I think even that is something that's hard for him to get past.
Well, remember even like the week that they had to play Kendall Hinton, Vic was really unhappy with the quarterbacks. And he said so after the game. Of course, my counter to that is, Vic, you could have avoided this worst-case scenario by following what we said over the summer and having a COVID quarterback isolated. Blake Bortles should have been hanging out in Florida. He shouldn't have been up here with the team.
Good thing Blake Bortles isn't in the quarterback conversation now.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, and
so it's what I'm saying is like Vic kind of threw the quarterbacks under the bus after that game. You remember that press conference. But Vic wasn't without blame in this.
No. All right, let's get to these super chats, Kale. Do we have a couple that we need to read off? Just one. All right, perfect.
Just one coming in from DTL.
From DTL, $20. Thanks so much.
Woo!
The starter isn't going to be named. We'll find out week 1, and I'm here for the madness. Keep it coming.
Man.
Honestly, I wouldn't hate it.
If they don't name the starter this week, I'm all for
Drag
not
it all
naming
the
a
way.
starter. I mean, just having Teddy or Drew walk out there.
Which means every player has to answer that question for the next 2.5 weeks. And this is where I would say someone in the organization would need to say, Vic, this is how Gary Kubiak did it. He got up there on Monday, he told the team, and then he went out there and told the media. So nobody was answering these BS questions all week about, who's the quarterback going to be? Everyone was just focused on what the task at hand was going to be that coming Sunday. And as I recall, how did that season turn out? Now, I'm just saying, you're always looking for best practices, right? To me, the best practice on this is exactly what Coobs did with Osweiler Peyton thing. Say it say it as soon as you can. Say it to the team, say it to the public, and then you move on. You take it off the table, and then you focus on football.
Well, they're not going to do what I said. I mean, so Mase, you don't have to get
I
worried
hope
about
not.
that. They're not going to do that. They're
Until
going
they-
to name a starter. If not tomorrow, it'll be next Monday or Tuesday.
Until they do, I'm going to worry.
No. There's no need to worry.
WWGKD. What would Gary
That
Kubiak
doesn't really
do?
roll off the tongue.
What Gary might do is Gary might start Drew Lock because Drew can run that play fake boot so beautiful.
No,
I don't know because
he
went with Trevor, and I think Trevor is Teddy in this scenario.
I think so too.
Wait. Trevor's Teddy, and he hadn't. No, he had Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez was going to be Teddy.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
It was Teddy versus more unknown Teddy.
Yeah.
So, guys, I mean, I think we have to dive into my DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week right now because it is this. And right now over at DraftKings Sportsbook, you can get some juice on this right now. Who will take the Broncos' first snap in the regular season? Drew Lock is the heavy favorite right now, minus 190.
Wow.
Teddy Bridgewater, plus 130. I'm taking that and running with it. And I'm not wasting any time because, again, I think this thing's over soon.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Like, how far off are
Honestly,
we?
if you're right, if you believe in anything that the narrative, now again, the narrative last week was this thing was Drew's. Now the narrative is this thing's Teddy. Maybe we're all off, and they're going to start Brett Rippin.
There is no other quarterback now.
Okay, but that's pretty juicy. In
Yeah.
fact, you might need to go if you want in on it. You might need to go right now because
Yeah.
DraftKings could very well be listening.
Okay. For people on the app, how do they find that, Zach?
It is
For Mase.
it is under player specials or player futures. You got to scroll to the far right,
There it is.
and then it's under starting
player
quarterback.
props because you've got Who will take the Denver Broncos' first snap?
Look at this. This guy didn't trust me. He
know?
didn't trust me.
No,
Wow.
He had to see it for himself.
Maybe
I
he's
had
just
to-
placing the bet now.
Well, I'm also seeing it in odds that I can understand. Drew Lock is 10-19. Teddy Bridgewater's 13-10.
How does that?
ugly.
How does that make any sense? All right. Also, well, okay. Let's get into our Mase. Do you have one pick of the week?
I'm going for my
It's a
usual
great one, Zach.
Thank you.
my usual picture opposing the Braves over under on the strikeouts tonight is Jordan Montgomery for the Yankees. So I'm going to take the over on 5.5 strikeouts.
Boy, that is just your fallback, and it seems to work.
It's worked more often than not. I think I'm at about 75%.
There you go.
On that,
That's
so.
a lucky number.
I think I might have already given this one out, but I just don't care. I'm doing it again. It's that
you feel
good.
that good about it.
It's real. I really do feel that good about it. Let me make sure I get the right number here. Make sure it hasn't changed. Scroll down to the Jays. Two Jays, maybe.
Jays. 2 Jays, Blue Jays?
Okay, wait. I'm in the wrong section. Sorry. Let me just make sure I have it right here. Scroll down to
This
the
is
Jays.
our betting guy.
All right. Sorry, I just clicked the wrong thing. Jerry Jeudy, regular season receptions, over 65.5. What are we doing here?
Yeah, come on. I mean, what does that break? Mace, can you do that mental math? 66 divided by 18.
17
No.
or per game?
Per game. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, divided by 7. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I said
17. That is fewer than 4 receptions a game. Just
Come
it's
on.
about 3.8 or so.
Now, I felt this way last year. They had him at 55 last year, I think it was. And I think he ended up falling. Or maybe it was 50.5. I don't know. But it ended up being really close. I just can't see a way. He should have 3 catches every first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially just what we kind of talked about in the past couple weeks about Cortland Sutton maybe not being back 100%. You may not take his overs, but you smash Judy's.
I think so too. And again, this narrative went away a little bit, but the early narrative was Teddy and Jerry have hit it off.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And obviously that fourth down completion was great. I think that was the only time he targeted him
Yep.
in the preseason, but that's just because they only had 1 or 2 drives together.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. In OTAs, it was Teddy going to Jerry every other play,
Yeah.
if not even more often than that.
So if he's the starter, I'm even more confident in this.
Right.
And last time I gave out this pick, I thought Drew was going to be the starter.
Right. And you still felt good about
Yeah,
it.
felt
That's
great
just
about
because
it.
of how good Jerry Jeudy looks.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Wait, just quick shout out to Mase because I did that math in my head. He said it was about 3.8. It's 3.82, and he
Yeah.
did that in his head. So
There we go. Impressive. And also, if you need someone to help you do very complicated math, check out our friends over at Chevalier Mortgage. Well, they will hook you up with the best mortgage, not just the best mortgage and interest rate, but they'll hook you up with the entire process. And the reason I say they're so good crunching numbers is because Mike is a certified financial planner, and that will help you beyond just the interest rate and the mortgage rate that you're looking at. So make sure to check them out over at DNVRmortgage.com, or you can give Virginia a call directly at 303-257-6578. And you know the deal about Chevalier Mortgage. Mike and Virginia are part of the DNVR family. They are members, and they've been part of our family for a long time, and they help take the stress out of buying a home. So let them do that for you. And if you check them out, you will receive a free DNVR shirt or hat of your choice when you do so. Visit them at DNVRmortgage.com and get set up with a free consultation as well. It doesn't get any better than that. Check them out over at DNVRmortgage.com. NMLS 191006. Virginia Chevalier NMLS 19100631.
And finally, I want to give a shout out to our friends at Breckenridge Brewery. They're damn good beers. I don't know what else to say. Saturday was a strawberry sky night. We're working towards vanilla porter season, which actually coincides nicely with the beginning of football season. But whatever beers you like, Breckenridge Brewery does it best. And heck, even if you don't like beers, you're a seltzy guy or girl, they do the best of those as well.
Yes,
Maybe you
they
only
do.
like the lemonade seltzies. Well, they do the best of those as well. So check out Breckenridge Brewery. Damn good beers and seltzers.
Yes, it's the best. It's the best. And just like our coverage here is the best. And we want you to become a member with us so that you can leave comments on the pod which we're going to read to right now, so that you get all of the perks that we are offering. And also, guys, you got to hold your fantasy draft here. I know I've got a fantasy draft. This is fantasy draft week, I think, right now. And next week, no better place to get in on fantasy drafts than here at the bar, because not only is it the best place to host a draft, but you get 2 free pitchers of beer. You get your choice of Breck beer, so you can get whatever you want. You can get a pitcher of Strawberry Sky. You can get the RK Special if you want, and you get a draft beer pitcher of your choice as well. So here's what you do. Email GM@the DNVR Bar to get your fantasy draft set up. And boy, get those free pitchers and have a great time.
Also tell Darren I said hi when you email him. He's like right downstairs, but you tell him to. All right. We're going to get into the questions from the listeners, but first let's get to these super chats because we've got a few
Wow.
We love ya.
Stopping by the bar this weekend, and I'm wondering, does D-Line have a new Broncos shirt ready to roll? Hyped, love DNVR, cheers.
Very soon.
Yes.
Very soon. I actually have seen one, so I can guarantee you there's at least one coming soon with more in the workshop, per se.
And love to hear, David, that you're stopping by the bar this weekend.
Yes.
Definitely say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be here for what could be a very boring game.
It's either going to be like the end of this quarterback competition, very exciting, or, yes, an extremely boring game.
Yes. Oh, wait, what do you do? So let's say that you name Teddy the starter this week.
And then Drew starts.
Are you going to start Drew in week 3?
Playing Brett Rippon all the way through, baby.
4 quarters of Brett?
4 quarters of Brett.
What if he gets hurt? Touch wood.
Better than Drew getting hurt. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying
You
then
can bring
someone-
back Kyle Sloter.
You have to suit someone else up.
Kendall Hinton.
Kendall Hinton.
Hell yeah. I'm down for that, actually. Give us something to watch. All right, what else we got?
All right, coming in from Lester Adkins. Midseason change odds. With a Week 11 bye, there's no easy point to switch QBs if they want to change. 5 to 6 division games are after the bye.
Yeah.
Interesting. A lot of people in my mentions, besides the ones who are just fighting with each other,
There's a lot of that.
constantly, are
Oh,
talking.
so now you get some fighting in your mentions? I'm glad to hear.
Well, no, they're fighting with each other.
Right.
It's crazy. Like 100 messages. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm out on the golf course
Yeah.
yesterday, just watching 2 people fight in my mentions.
Yeah, I get one of people that were fighting the beginning of last week. It popped up this morning. We're starting this again?
I know. It's like, come on, guys. But a lot of people talking about that. You know, does it make more sense to go from Teddy to Drew or Drew to Teddy? To me, it makes a lot more sense to go from Drew to Teddy. If you know, Drew didn't work out, you pull the emergency parachute. But we've talked about this a lot as well. You just can't afford for it not to work out in the first 3 weeks. Like, literal jobs are on the line.
Yes, Vic can't afford to not win a game in September.
The problem is if Drew gets put in, let's say they make Teddy the starter. If Drew gets put in, to me, it's like I don't even know. It's like a last-ditch like trade value thing or something along those lines.
Or it's a save the season thing. I mean, in addition to the bye, there's another moment. It's after the 7th game. The 7th game, of course, is in Cleveland on Thursday night. So there's another logical point. Mini bye, you get 2 of the next 3 at home, all 3 against the NFC East. You presume you would like your chances to win 2 of 3 of those games against Washington, at Dallas, and then Philadelphia at home. And then you get the bye, and then if you make the change, let's say Teddy is the starter and you change to Drew after the Browns game, you give Drew 3 games to kind of get his sea legs, get comfortable, and then that final push coming out of the bye with all those division games.
Yeah, I think it's done for either of these guys if they're the backup. Just out of the
forever?
For the year? For the
yeah,
year?
forever. Yeah, no.
You know what? Here's why, and I'll just say this. This is one example, and I know this is the exception to the rule. But when Teddy started talking about Bill Parcells on Saturday, it kind of got me thinking. Because Parcells, most of his success was with the Giants. He had Phil Simms. There are elements of the Phil Simms career arc that apply to both of these guys. With Simms, it was, okay, or could apply to Drew Lock. With Simms, it was, he struggles early, he's just okay, has some success, but then ends up getting benched a few years into his career and is a backup for a little while, and then comes back as the starter in his 6th year after Scott Brunner had been the Giants quarterback the previous year. But Drew Lock could take that arc as well. I mean, Simms started, benched, and then came back in and was better and was a really good quarterback. So if Drew loses this job, I am not of the belief that this is all over for him at all.
I think it's over in Denver.
I don't know about that.
I do. I tend to
Wow.
agree with Zach. I mean, they tried to replace him all offseason, then they picked Teddy over him. It feels like everyone from George Payton on down will have made their mind up at that point.
But what if he sits there for those few weeks, for half a season, whatever, with a clipboard, he watches Teddy, he's in the rooms with Teddy, he starts to kind of see the game in terms of a more pragmatic approach and really can get to that calculated gunslinger level, learns how to, learns a little bit from watching the film of Teddy, and then applies that to his game when he gets another shot and is a different kind of quarterback. I really do. I mean, maybe I'm probably wrong on this because I'm banking on the outlier here, but I don't think it's over for Drew if he loses this job. Well, I don't think it's over here.
I hope that's the case for Drew. I just think it would be over here. And could I see that happening? Sure. I just certainly wouldn't be betting on it.
Who is the Colts backup?
It is, isn't it Sam Ellinger? Yeah.
It's either Jacob Eason or Sam Ellinger. They're in a competition right now.
Now
They're so done. I'm just saying, if I were them, I'd be calling about Drew Lock.
Now, maybe why they wouldn't is now Carson Wentz is practicing this week, and it seems like he's on the timetable return sooner than later.
Interesting. Okay.
They should have hung on to Jacoby Brissett's what they should have done.
Do we have one more super chat?
One more super chat. You guys
Love
kind
it.
of already talked about it, but not specifically. Coming in from Peter, you guys have done a good job this whole offseason. How long of a leash would Teddy have if you were named the starter?
Honestly, I think any quarterback's leash is kind of short just because it's so – you're so desperate to win, I mean, at least 2 of the first 4 games.
Yeah, you have to
where if you go 0-2, God forbid.
Or what if you're 0-1? I mean, because that Giants game –
Right. I know what you're going to say.
It's a coin flip, and then you go down to Jacksonville in the heat and humidity, and you're struggling, and you're down, say, 13-6 at halftime. The offense isn't going much of any place, and you say, "All right, kid, go in there."
I really think that's a possibility. It's a kind of a worst case scenario because it just means like everything you did for this whole training camp you were wrong about. But it's a possibility. The leash is short. Because, again, jobs are on the line here. You cannot go 0-2. It's just not an option. You certainly, can't do worse than that. And even 1-2 is like all alarms are sounding.
We're talking about tanking at halftime of that Jaguars game. I mean, you thought the tank talk starting in October was early.
Stop. Don't do this to me.
But if they're 1-2 after 3 games, we're looking at that Raven game and saying, unless you pull off an upset, anybody who is not in the plans for 2022 and beyond, anyone who has an expiring contract, you take calls.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's why this is so desperate.
Yep.
That everyone's leash is short.
Yep.
Pat Shurmur's leash is short.
Yep. Oh, everyone. Yeah, because Vic, to save his job, may be moving on from a coach in order to save his job for another week or 2.
You have 2 former NFL head coaches on the staff and another high-level college head coach, Mike Shula. You've got Mike Shula, who's also been NFL offensive coordinator, who's in the wings for Pat Shurmur. I mean,
everyone can be chopped.
Yes,
everyone.
I mean, you could have a Mike Munchak, Mike Shula, head coach, offensive coordinator, Mike and Mike combo. If this thing starts bad, it's bad enough.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They could have their own radio show.
Yeah, they could.
No, so it is. That's how desperate they are.
Yeah.
They have to win 2 out of 3. I mean, they just have to.
Yep.
Whatever it takes.
Yep.
And if it's not happening, you're going to have to do something crazy to try and make it happen. And Drew as the savior, I feel like kind of like would fit his arc. It
would.
He comes in at halftime of the Jags game. He leads them back to a win. He leads them to a win over the Jets. He leads them to a win over the Ravens. And everyone is telling you that the coaching staff are idiots, and I would absolutely be one of them. But Drew looks great, and everyone's happy.
Or is it possible he needed that scenario to kind of bring it all together?
Yeah, but the coaches don't get credit for that.
I mean, Ryan, you talked about you hinted on Saturday, suggesting potentially just keeping the quarterback competition going throughout the year, and I shut it down. What if you make Teddy your starter and Drew's your closer. Drew comes in the fourth quarter every game.
Well, only if you're losing.
He should be closing every drive in the red zone. Although, to Teddy's credit, he's actually done very well in the games, at least, against mostly scrubs. But he's done much better in the games in the red zone than he did in practice.
Okay, we absolutely...
No, one more. Sorry. People keep saying you can't make the playoffs with Teddy, Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson, Doug Williams, Joe Flacco, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Say you're wrong.
I will not take that Doug Williams slander in that conversation.
I don't think anyone's saying you
Doug
can't
had a big
make
arm.
the playoffs with Teddy.
And I don't think any of us are saying that. I think the Broncos can make the playoffs.
I'd be willing to say you very likely cannot win a Super Bowl with Teddy.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even say you can't.
Just look at the last few years. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky's been a playoff quarterback twice.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor has been a playoff quarterback.
Just about anyone can make the playoffs.
Mark Sanchez led the Jets to back-to-back AFC Championship game appearances in just the last dozen years.
He, I believe at one point, maybe to this day, holds the record for most playoff road wins in a row or something like that.
Well, he won like all but one of his... Or no, every playoff game he had was a road game, and the Jets won 4 of the 6.
Yeah, maybe he had some interesting record about road playoff games.
He just cool Mark.
He beat Tom Brady.
Maybe
and
like
the
best
Patriots.
winning percentage in road playoff games.
Maybe, yeah.
Wow.
And he went to some tough spots. He beat
Although Eli won 2 Super Bowls as a wild card, right?
Yeah.
But as a wild card. But then they lost some other games over the years on the road too.
Right.
But like with Sanchez, it wasn't just that the Jets were winning these games. They had one game where they won at New England with Tom Brady. They won at Indianapolis with Peyton Manning. Actually, Peyton Manning's I believe that was his last game as a Colt quarterback. Before the injuries was against the Colts.
All right, let's get into the comments from the DNVR members. If you want to get in the comment section, become a member at thednvr.com. There's a lot here, so we'll try to get to as many as we can, potentially skip over ones that don't have clear questions. And, of course, the first one we start with is a long one.
And since we're in the season right now, if you guys would shorten the comments just a little bit, just so we can get to as many as possible.
Or
Super
just a
chat link.
TLDR.
Right? Super chat link.
TLDR. That goes a long way.
I looked in to see if we could lower the amount of characters. I don't know if it's possible. All right, first one's from Kirk Smith 44. He says, I've typed in about 3 or 4 comments and deleted them. Wow, he's wrote up about 1,000 words this night. They don't correctly express my frustration with this competition. We're arguing between a journeyman who has met and a young QB who has only shown a few flashes in his first 2 years. I want Drew, despite the fact that I was ready to kick him to the curb at the end of last season. I know he probably won't become Josh Allen, but I'd sure like to at least know for sure. So we're now left with Vic Fangio to make this decision. I think that's the roughest part of the whole thing. Vic is making the decision. He's a coach thinking for his career and thinking what's best for saving his job and not what's best for the franchise. Matt Nagy is another coach who's in the same position. He has stated what he wants to do and what's best for his players, the Bears, and not ruin Justin Fields despite the fact that his coaching staff would be better off starting Fields from day one. If Fields struggles but comes on strong, he probably gets another year, but he'll probably start Dalton because of their difficult schedule to start the season. This is a decision I don't think Vic would make. So despite my frustration with the competition, I guess I'm just more frustrated with Vic and wonder if maybe we would have been better off finding a new coach last offseason and let the new GM pick his guy instead of the other way around.
I mean, if Vic is not around next year, then I think the answer is absolutely yeah. Then you should have done that. And with the way the Broncos have been, it's not crazy to say that they'll have a new guy.
I have to see a lot of things other than just wins from Vic Fangio this year for him to convince me that he should be the coach of this team long term.
And what's it like? Game management,
coach management, all those things.
You know what I need to see too? A dominant defense, an elite defense.
That's the number one thing.
Because that's what
3.
he was brought here to do, right?
Got to be top 3.
And we haven't seen that yet.
Would help if it stays healthy for a change.
Of course.
In his defense.
Yes.
Next one's for you, Mase.
Count Locula. The 3 wide sets with the backup O-line was a death sentence for Drew. The fix is in. Not going for it on 4th down with Drew. Come on. I love me some Teddy, but Drew got done dirty. I'm so done with Fangio. I'll say it right here. He's a terrible head coach. He's living in fear, and we suffer the consequences year after year. That having been said, I'm stoked about his defense and this team in general. Go Broncos. Love the count. There's a lot going on in that comment.
Yeah, and Mase, I loved the stat you put out, which was, I believe, was it 3? He had 3 play action passes in the first game that led to 101 yards and a touchdown.
And he had no play action
and 0 play action passes.
At least
now,
under center, play action under center. There were a couple of fake shotgun handoffs, but the thing we talk about when we're talking about true play action in a West Coast scheme is when you're under center, you play fake. Sometimes you got an I formation or an offset I, and then you boot out. That's what we're talking about with the thing that really works for him.
Yep, and that's really interesting. Now, we did find out after the game that the play he was stepped on was going to be the play that Brett Rippon later threw a touchdown pass on.
Yes.
And I think Drew alluded to it being the same coverage, so it probably would have had the same result. Now, that you can't count on that.
Right.
But, I mean, those are little things that, like, Drew fans are saying, like, if it's really that close, like, it's going to – Austin Schlottman stepping on his foot is going to cost this guy the job.
The fourth down, the coaching decisions, the coaches skewing this toward Teddy.
And the lack of doing what works really well for him.
Right. Now, what I would say about those fourth downs is not the coaches skewing it against Drew, but isn't that the coaches really showing you how they feel about Teddy? And just how much confidence and trust they have in him.
It really exists.
I really wish they would have gone for it on fourth down with Drew, but I think that's very telling.
And again, I mean, isn't the preseason about evaluating?
Yes.
Did you need to evaluate Brandon McManus?
Maybe George told him, hey, if you go undefeated in the preseason, I'll sign you to a contract extension.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's he wanted McManus to.
They were up 17.
He said he wanted McManus to practice the kicks. They're getting plenty of practice on place kicks because they're kicking so many extra points because they're scoring so many points. Just go for it on 4th and 5.
Yeah, that's some BS, is what that is.
Yeah.
You really wanted to see McManus kick a field goal. Give me a break. What are you gonna do? Cut him if he doesn't make it?
Well, it's not like in the regular season you're letting him go out there to try deep ones.
Right. Give me a
I guess sometimes
break.
Vic did.
The next one from Levi Hunt. A common argument from Drew Lock supporters is that he deserves a first chance because of his age and upside. Denver can then just always move to Teddy later in the season if Drew blows it with the chance he's given. But I think Denver has to go into the season with the QB who they think gives them the best chance to win because of how easy the start to their schedule is. Maybe the 3 easiest games on the schedule in the Giants, Jags, and Jets. They have to go 2-1 or 3-0 to start the season. The playoffs, or else the playoffs are almost already lost. What do you think about the QB competition in regards to the easy early schedule? We just talked about that, and I couldn't agree more. I think that is weighing heavy on Vic Fangio. Is just I need this 3-0 start or at least 2-1. I got to go with the safe guy with less variance.
It is so crazy that we're talking about a team that has not had a winning season since 2016. How they have to have a 2-1 start. But it's just true. When you look at it, it's true. And that's just why they're going to go with the guy they trust.
When's the last time the Giants, Jets, or Jags made the playoffs? The Jags with
Bortles in 17.
Eli Manning?
Yeah. The Jets, I think you have to go all the way back to
Mark Sanchez.
The Sanchez. It's been a long time for them.
It's not even just like teams that were bad last year. It's like historic.
Well, and the Giants did it.
The Giants,
the Giants did it with McAdoo. Like was it in 16?
They made the playoffs with
15 and 16.
Wow.
Yeah, with Eli.
Yep.
Where is Ben McAdoo these days anyway?
CFL, I would guess.
11 and 5 in 2016.
He maybe plays like the Calgary Flames. I know that's a hockey team.
Oh, he's a consultant for the Cowboys.
He's trying to get back at his former
and he was
team.
Nice gig if you can.
And he was the quarterbacks coach for the Jaguars last year after being out of football for 2 years. Okay, because for a while it seemed like he was pulling a Rich Kotite. Gets fired from a New York team and vanishes off the face of the earth.
Yeah, that would be a Kotite move.
Classic
if you ask me. Makes you said Ben McAdoo's back, and NFL is almost back, guys, and that means my favorite betting season is here, and there's no better place to get in on the action than our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Guys, we already gave you winning bets, but if you guys want to use free money to hit those bets, here's what you do. All new users, if you bet $1 on any game in week 1, you'll get $200 in free bets. That's all you have to do. Bet on any week 1 game, and they'll give you $200 in free bets, which you can use on picks of the week that we're going to give you. And it's So much fun. I cannot wait for everything they've got coming with in-game parlays that you can do and everything that they're offering over at DraftKings Sportsbook. So head to the App Store now, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now, and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to turn $200 or to get $200 in free bets when you bet $1 on any Week 1 game. That's code DNVR to get $200 in free bets for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Also, right after this show ends, we'll be going right into DNVR Bets Daily. Me and Eric going to give you some winners. Also, shout out to Hassel Cattle Company. It's the best beef that money can buy, in my opinion, or at least fair-priced beef that money can buy. And it's so good that we've put it right into the burgers here at the DNVR Bar. And we've got some new burgers here at the DNVR Bar that you absolutely want to come check out.
Cream cheese.
Yeah, my favorite is just the Denver burger, the classic cream cheese and hatch green chilies. It's delicious. But
those are the two best toppings you could put on a burger, and then you put it on the best meat.
Exactly. And we have the best buns, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm not even overstating it. It's incredible.
Got the best bread, period. But that's another matter entirely.
Yes. There's all sorts of great
Yeah.
new stuff on the menu, and Hassel Cattle is very featured. But you can get this sent straight to your door if you can't make it down to the DNVR Bar, and you can get 10% off when you use the code DNVR10. So go to HassellCattleCompany.com. That's HASSELL CattleCompany.com for 10% off when you use the code DNVR10. And if you go over $200, which, by the way, you'll get a lot for $200,
Yes, you will.
but you're going to want all of that. You'll get free shipping as well. So check them out, Hassel Cattle Company.
You're going to want something to wash that down with if you get some Hassel Cattle Company beef, and that's where our friends over at Strava Craft Coffee come in. Yes, you can have coffee with
Love
them.
a steak with some coffee.
Hey, I mean,
Is that breakfast or dinner?
Well, you could do steak and eggs with
Yeah.
coffee.
yes, you absolutely can. You know what? That's a meal that's going to perk you up. If you're a guy, it's going to put some hair on your chest. Steak and coffee. And Strava
that's why I don't have chest hair.
And you know what? It's going to make you feel good as well, because if you've got headache, aches and pains, whatever, Strava Craft Coffee, it's infused with CBD, and people far and wide have used CBD products to take care of little ailments and reliefs that have been bothering them. And guess what? They've upped the ante. They're offering a new discount code. You know about the code DNVR20. Well, how about DNVR25? 25% off your first order at Strava Craft Coffee. You can go check out the reviews, and you'll be blown away with stories about how Strava Craft Coffee has helped them. And you know what? If you've tried Strava, you like it, you can subscribe and get 20% off for life. So either DNVR 25 for a one-time 25% off, or subscribe, get it delivered to you on a regular basis, get 20% off for life. You can get every 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks from that great tasting Strava Craft Coffee with the benefits of CBD. If you want to try once before you order, come on down to the DNVR Bar, try some of Strava's cold brew, which we've got on tap down here. Check it out, Strava Craft Coffee. That code DNVR25 for 25% off.
All right, let's go hyperspeed here. Try and knock out as many as we can here. Next one's from D. Bronk. He says, if Teddy's named the starter, do you let Drew play in the final preseason game? Well, that's what we've been talking about. It's a question that is really interesting. I have the answer, though. Brett Rippon first half, Kendall Hinton second half. Let's go.
There we go. Yes, you let Drew play. Aviator Chris says, y'all got me. Treated myself to a membership for my 28th birthday. Thanks to Training Camp offer code. Happy birthday.
Nice.
And
We got him.
Howdy from Fort Worth, Texas, but originally from upstate New York. Been a diehard Bronco fan since 07. Thanks to the first NFL game experience when I got to watch Cutler and the Broncos take down Vince Young and the Titans. The atmosphere at the stadium was electric, and you could feel the energy from the crowd. I'm sure it's been asked before, but what was y'all's first live Broncos game as a fan you attended and also covered as media? Keep up the great work and look forward to commenting more on future pods. # Broncos Country. I'll tell you guys the story of my first game covering the team in the stadium. It was the first game after the Super Bowl, and we're on the field getting to watch getting to watch the Panthers.
Younghoe Koo, I think.
Just miss it for the Broncos to beat the Panthers.
No,
a
wait,
second
that
time.
was-
Who was the Chargers in 17?
Yeah. Gosh, so many guys have missed game-winning field goals down there.
Yeah.
It was...
Was it Joey Sly back then? Joey
Yes.
Sly, yeah.
Yep, that was a great one. I think that was also my first one in the press box.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
not Joey Sly. Graham Gano.
Oh, Graham Gano, good.
Because it was
yes.
Yeah, and he only hit 79% of his field goals that year.
That was
Tough
one of
scene.
them.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly who it was. The first game I ever went to was, I believe, a preseason game. And I think I've told the story before. We were sitting at the very top of the old Mile High, and it was so steep. And my mom had me on her lap, and I was convinced that I was going to like fly off her lap and just tumble down the entire section and die.
Especially when it got loud. The
Yes.
stadium shaking.
The stadium's shaking. It literally felt like we were on the top of Everest, just like a straight decline down to the bottom of the field.
Yeah. Let's see. My first Bronco game was preseason, Tampa, 1993.
Of course.
Broncos at Bucks. It was John Elway playing briefly in the preseason opener, and also John Lynch making his professional debut.
How
Wow.
about that? The
night.
Johns.
Yes.
A
Big-
couple Hall of Fame Johns.
and there was a little trash talking going on between the two Stanford guys, as we would later learn. First Bronco game I ever covered, it was actually the first NFL game for which I had a credential. It was Broncos at Seahawks in 1999 in the Kingdome. When I was
Classic.
working on the league site, they contracted out to ESPN at the time, and they had digital offices up there, and I was based out of Seattle. And, man, the Kingdome that night was so loud that I could feel my pant cuff shaking with the noise.
Wow.
That is like,
wow.
that is, to this day, it's the loudest stadium I've ever been in was the Kingdome that night because you had a roof over it, obviously. And the Seahawks were really good that year. They hadn't been good for a long time. And so, and they're playing the defending champions, even though the defending champions didn't have TD and didn't have John Elway having retired. Chris Miller was the quarterback that night, but it was still just electric in there, even though the Broncos lost.
Next one's from Salty Butler. Based on what we've seen, I'd make Teddy the starter. To me, he just seems more consistent and looks more comfortable. However, I do think it's unfair that we haven't seen Drew with the full starting offense. If the coaching staff wants to wait until after the third preseason game, here's what I think they should do. Play the starting offense again for at least halfway through the second quarter, but maybe the whole first half, and split time between Teddy and Drew with Drew going first. I know you don't normally play the starters much in the preseason, but frankly, the offense has been so bad the last years that they haven't earned the right to sit it out. What are your guys' thoughts on this, and if it would even make a difference at this point? Man, I was all about this until I realized they'll be going against scrubs. They might, like, you can get this same work against the scout team in your own backyard.
Yep.
It's, I mean, the first team offense should be wrecking them. It wouldn't be real because they'd probably have no pressure. I don't think they even really have the option of taking this thing much longer.
Is it better work than you had in Minnesota against their
No.
ones? Is it better work than you had against your own ones in training camp? I don't think it is.
Yeah.
There's just no way
Yeah.
you can decide anything.
No.
You have a lot of information right now.
Yep.
We know which way we know which way they're leaning. I just don't think, even if George Payton was like pleading for extra time, I don't know what could happen that could change anything at this point.
I don't think so. So I think it's over. Next one, long one from Bronc Oilers. I'm going to try to hit the important parts. He says, Happy Victory Monday. Once again, really encouraging to see the team in another blowout win. It's preseason, and we had a lot of ones playing against backups, but I'm encouraged the way they looked, and that's the way they should look. On the quarterback front, it's hard to imagine Vic calling it for Drew based on last night's game and Vic's comment and demeanor. Is it the choice I'd make? Maybe not, but watching Teddy make plays makes me wonder if overestimating Drew's ceiling in Vic eyes. Conventional wisdom says Drew has a higher ceiling than Teddy of being the long-term guy based on tools, but he's been so wildly inconsistent I'm finding it harder and harder to envision him as a franchise quarterback. As much as I love Drew, he's really profiling for me to be one of those high-talent developmental guys who eventually plateaus as an inconsistent low-end starter, high-end backup that you can see flashes at some starts. Likewise, maybe we're underestimating Bridgewater's ceiling in Fangio's eyes. Is it possible that Vic could see Teddy ceiling as what he produced in New Orleans, yet he doesn't have Sean Payton calling plays, but you could argue that he has a better supporting cast and defense than the 2019 Saints, where in the 6 he threw for 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, 68% completion. Projected over 17 games, that's 3,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions with a 68% completion. If I'm Vic Fangio, it's not that crazy to have more faith in the idea of Teddy regaining his New Orleans form or close to it than a guy that we've never seen string 2 games in a row to turn into a franchise quarterback in his third year.
Let me ask you guys this. If Teddy had a season like that, what are you doing?
You're keeping him. You're not moving away. 26-6.
I mean, if he
You're
goes
giving-
26-6 and almost 4,000 yards, the Broncos are making the playoffs, and no one wants to see them.
I was going to say they're winning a playoff.
And they're
game.
probably re-signing Teddy.
To a monster deal.
So like they're signing him to a 3-year, $60 million contract with
More.
with $40 million guaranteed.
He just signed a 3-year, $60 million contract 2 years ago.
It was $33 million guaranteed. That's why I'm upping the guarantee to basically the first 2 years.
I think you're talking $30 million a year.
Don't do that.
I'm not saying that's
And
ideal by any
but
means.
that's the danger zone is when you pay big money
This is what lock
for a
the lock people
non-elite
are saying right
quarterback.
now.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and what are you going to do, though? Let a guy that just had your best
Yes.
season since 2014, Peyton Manning, walk?
Yes. Absolutely.
You're re-signing him, but you're drafting Malik Willis.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of Peyton Manning, Omaha chimes in and says, Teddy reminds me of Peyton a la 2015 with the 2 gloves and wobbly throws, but also with the feeling of absolute calm that washes over me, knowing he's rarely going to make a bad decision and the accuracy is mostly on point. With this defense and if the Broncos can run the ball well, this team could surprise. I think I'm beginning to become a Teddy stan.
He'll make some bad
I love
decisions
that.
in the red zone, though, but I like the general theme.
I just love that people are coming around to Teddy.
Seeing the bright spot.
Yep. And I agree. I told you on Saturday when he lined up in 4th and 5, I was like, he's going to convert this.
Yep. He just is so calm.
Yes.
Cool, calm, and collected, baby.
Yeah.
It doesn't look
Cool,
like
calm, and collective, as Emmanuel Sanders once said.
Well, put it this way: he's not moving slow, but when there's a lot going around him, it looks like he's
calm,
deliberate.
collected.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's able to just kind of process.
I just don't think he's like scared at all.
Yeah.
He looks very just like, if I get hit, I get hit.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about any of this.
He's already had the worst happen to him,
right.
you know?
Right.
That's a
And
good point.
speaking of the 4th down, Bronco Euler says, hey, guys, one more thing that's not being discussed is how many times we went for it on 4th down with Teddy. Do you think Vic goes
was
for
definitely
it on
discussed.
4th downs
Yes.
in a regular season game?
I don't know, but I actually think that the way that I felt about Teddy is the way that Drew felt about Teddy. Or sorry, that Vic felt about Teddy, which was, I think he's going to convert this.
Yeah.
I don't think he feels that way about Drew. And it goes into the entire thing that we're talking about here with last year is in Vic Fangio's head. He can't just erase that away. And he feels like Drew put him in a bad position. And I don't think he trusts him.
Yeah.
So that's why they don't go for it on 4th downs.
Especially think about this: how many of Drew's misses were like 5-yard outs,
Oh, I don't know.
where he just misses the target?
Yeah, I mean,
And that's the thing that Teddy does really well. I mean, he had the one of the incompletions to Javonte Williams. It was a drop. I mean, it was in his hands.
yeah,
that's
that was
the
tough.
kind of pass that Drew Lock missed last year. And even though they can say all along, oh, it's about what happens this year, what happens in training camp, you can't mentally, if you're a coach, you can't necessarily divorce what you saw last year from what you're viewing right now.
Yep. Yeah,
You
and
start a
it's
bit.
true. I mean, that was one thing we didn't talk about on the post-game show was that Javonte had dropped that pass right before. Like,
Yep.
that almost, as a coach, you're just saying, like, ugh, I need to see it again. you
That
know?
was just like the pass he dropped from Sam Howell against Florida State last year late. And that's the
Of course.
no, as good as Javonte Williams is,
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the drops with him.
Well, maybe
even though he's a
that's-
terrific receiving back, he does sometimes have that drop that just makes you go, ugh.
Well, in big play scenarios, Mase, maybe that's why we're seeing, why we'll see Melvin Gordon.
Gordon on
Maybe.
3rd down.
Yep.
From Shat Permer, Fangio needs to watch some Ted Lasso episodes. Do what is right for the team and the players and not what's right for him. The club is bigger than any one man, especially an out-of-touch old fart like him.
Wow. Happy birthday to Vic. Speaking
Oh
of
my
giving grace to
God.
Vic.
The
63
timing
years
of
old.
that. I don't think he's out of touch.
Although I had a response to that, and is it okay to cite something from a show that aired 11 months ago?
In terms of like spoiler alert?
Yes.
Nah.
Wait,
I haven't seen it.
come on. What is this? The statute of limitations, I think, is 3 months.
If you want to spoil
Star Wars.
Heat, you can.
Okay, so
That's random.
in other words, my comment, I'm sorry, you guys think it's a spoiler. I've given it 11 months since that episode came
End the
on
show,
that
Kale.
I'm citing. So I'm not going to say it here. You can read my comment.
There you go.
But I'm just but I get what Shat Permer is saying. That being said, I'm not sure Vic would take the lesson that Permer believes that he would.
Permer.
I just didn't want to say Shad again.
No, I
I
love
just
it.
did. I just did.
Vonster Return says, Saturday's game was interesting. I'm a Lock fan, but Teddy looked very sharp and confident. Do you think that the defense can carry Teddy like they did Peyton? I understand that you really can't compare Peyton and Teddy talent-wise, but Peyton was more of a game manager during our Super Bowl season. I also believe that Teddy could win 11 games from the offensive talent around him. Awesome pod and exciting to see how this year goes. Guys, the good thing is, if Teddy is as bad as Peyton was, and all due respect to Peyton in that year, he will be benched. So, I mean, we're not talking about can Teddy be as good as Peyton was. He absolutely has to be better. And so you don't need a defense, an elite all-time defense to carry you, because Teddy should be much better than Peyton.
He should. All right, this is going to be the last one we get to right now. Sorry, we got backed up a little bit. But, again, you can always copy your comments over to tomorrow, and we'll try to get to them. Well, we will get to them tomorrow, and then we'll try to get to as many as we can after that. But this one is from Sir of Norway, who says, I've been listening to your podcast for more than 2 years now, and I really appreciate your knowledge, insight, and encouragement. I became a member of DNVR this spring. Living and wearing my DNVR t-shirt in Norway.
Ooh.
Looking forward to visiting your bar in the Mile High one day in the future.
That's
awesome.
Way too cool. Love to hear the Norway check-in.
Do we need any Norwegian food on the bar menu, though?
Maybe not.
Isn't there that stinky fish?
That is Swedish.
Swedish, okay, yes.
Depends on what you're saying. If it's lutefisk, it's all skin and maybe.
Okay, well, yeah.
We'll put it this way. I looked up the Norwegian food on Google really quick, and the fourth entry was sheep's head. No, thank you.
Put it on the menu.
You guys have a Norwegian producer right now, and you are speculating, which I think is hilarious.
Well, I mean, we're not really speculating.
What
We're
is
just reading
Kale,
off of Google.
Kale, what is Norwegian food? Please tell us.
Depends on what. It's a lot of meat and potatoes. They eat a lot of lamb, a lot of beef, and then fish, obviously. A lot of salmon. Most of it's cured. Most of it's cold.
Sheep's
Whoa.
head.
And then a
Whoa,
lot
whoa,
of
whoa.
elderberries as well.
I'm down with the salmon, though. I'm down with salmon. I had 3 bowls of salmon chowder in Seattle. I'm down with anything
You heard it
salmon.
here from me. It's down with salmon. He's against
Wow,
salmon. Crazy.
down
Also,
with
I hope you like salted fish because there's a lot of it.
Yeah, that's like how they cook it.
So the answer is no. We don't need any of it on the bar menu. My question from him here is, last season you guys expressed frustration concerning the Broncos' game management and the play calling in several of the games. How do you expect game management and play calling to be different for the Broncos this season compared to last season? If any differences to be expected at all? To be honest, I don't expect any difference. But I'm hoping I see. It's like I'm not going to believe it until I see it. Sort of thing.
What's changed on the coaching staff from last year to this year?
Like a secondary coach.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you nailed the biggest change, Ryan. And so if a change were to happen, it's coming from George Payton. And George Payton has
Did they add in a game management coordinator, anything like that? No.
No. So And George Payton has stayed out of Vic's way, right? And said, I'm going to get you what you need to succeed this year. You can keep your staff. You can keep Tom McMahon this year if that's what you want to do. And if it works out, great. You get to keep your job. If not, you're moving on. So I doubt George Payton is pushing this down his throat.
No, it's one of those things where it's just you hope that Vic Fangio learned over the last couple of years, but there we have no evidence to say that he has.
No.
Except for him patting himself on the back for his great 2-minute management the other night.
When asked about Drew.
Yes. How good was Drew in the 2-minute drill? I thought I called great timeouts. Anyways, before we get out of here, I want to give a shout out to MSU Denver Online, our presenting sponsor of the show. They are the number one place to go if you're looking to maintain a full-time job while getting a better education, and then hopefully using that education to get a better full-time job. So you can go to msudenver.edu/online to scope out all they have to offer. There's really something for everyone. Whatever you're looking for, check it out over there. For today on the DNVR Broncos podcast, that is going to wrap it up for us. We'll be back tomorrow when there might be a new starting quarterback. I guess we'll find out, but we'll talk to you then. Oh, a buzzer beater super chat. Wow.
Clayton hitting it right at the spot. He says, you guys are talking as if Locke is going to be the same guy as his true rookie year. He's staying calm under pressure in the pocket and finding the open man downfield.
What exactly have we said that would
We've
talked. I literally my whole first point was about how the hardest thing about this is he is trending up.
Yeah.
He is making improvements. He's done a lot of the things you want him to do. He hasn't turned the ball over.
And when we were talking like earlier about, he missed some of those throws last year, those 5-7 yard outs that you want him to make. Well, he hasn't been missing those at the same rate this summer as he did last year, but the coaches may not be able to get last year out of their mind. It might be kind of like it's
not fair, but
it's a Pavlovian reaction that they have.
Yep.
Right. It's not fair, but it rarely is,
Yep.
Yeah.
especially in the NFL.
You know what is fair? Would you guys hit us with a thumbs up
That would
on
be
your
fair
way
of
out?
them.
We would really appreciate it. And be fair to us.
Yeah, be fair. Come on, guys. All right, that does wrap it up. Again, we'll talk to you tomorrow when maybe they do have a starting quarterback. See you guys.